Greetings, my excellent friend.
Welcome to Most Excellent Adventure to
Heavy Metal
History.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Heavy Metal History Podcast. I'm your host, Dustin. My guest for this episode was Nathan Winneke, the vocalist for Horse the Band. Now, just to preface this, there's little technical difficulties, and my software didn't record the first 10 minutes of the podcast, unfortunately. But luckily, we didn't get too much into the nuts and bolts of what we were trying to talk about with the podcast, which was the 15-year anniversary of the Mechanical Hand and the band's new EP, Your Fault. So that beginning part is missing, and it goes kind of right into him talking about the Mechanical Hand. And yeah, sorry about that. It happens, you know. I do the best I can. Luckily, though, you're going to have 2 episodes with Horse the Band members. This one with Nathan and the next one with David. So I hope you guys enjoy them, and thank you for listening. So without further ado, Nathan Winneke.
I'll tell you that.
No, you don't. No.
I love Glenn Danzig.
So the writing phase for the Mechanical Hand, how long were you guys kind of writing and constructing these songs? Was it pretty much like right after Our Borlax, you know, those couple years in between, or was it pretty quick that you guys had that stuff ready to go? Or was it already ready to go?
The one song, Octopus on Fire, I remember was done really early, so much it could have almost been Our Borlax song. And I remember in the gap between playing that and that being like the newest song at the time. And then everything else came pretty fast. I think came out of just one big writing session. Once it was like, we're going to make another album. And at the time, Eric and Dave were inspired humans, and they were just popping things out all the time. Eric would be like, I wrote this song. It's called Manatee. So it was just like a maniacal pace of new things popping out.
Yeah, I mean, what were you guys' ages around then? Because I'm sure, like, you know, youthful exuberance and, you know, just kind of being at the forefront of this genre, I guess, so to speak. You know, you guys were pretty inspired back then.
I think I was like 25 or like 20. It was literally like asking out of college. Mm-hmm. I was literally just DK as a worthless human.
So I guess you know, the span of time, I guess, isn't important because, you know, it's hard to remember all that stuff. But I guess once you guys kind of had the songs ready to go, and, you know, it's so, correct me if I'm wrong here, but are your guys, maybe not all the albums, but are they man, why am I blanking on the fucking word now? I just had it in my head. That's what editing's for.
Concept.
Yes, thank you. Concept records.
I would say that Our Borlax and Mechanical Hand are, because they do have repeating themes throughout it, but it's almost like in a way that it's a riddle, like you would have to go through all the songs and catch all the repeated words and know what they're referring to and kind of figure it all out. Mm-hmm. Whereas Pizza is like a directly straight into your mouth, no joke about what it's about concept that's very cohesive. And yeah. Natural Death is definitely a more laid out, like telling you right in your face what it's about and then going about filling in the blanks. Natural Death, at least writing wise, was the most straightforward effort that I ever made to be straightforward, and then immediately abandoned that idea after that because I love abstraction.
Yeah, I think that's something that's lost on a lot of bands nowadays. Somewhat. I mean, there are a few rarities out there, but I think people, or at least bands nowadays, tend to be a little more in your face and blunt about things, which I kind of admire the abstract a little bit more because it lets you kind of extrapolate and think about it as opposed to just having the answer right there in the lyrics and the music itself.
Yeah, if you're too direct, your concept itself isn't going to be all that big anyway, because how many words can you fit into a song?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in my creative writing classes in college, the idea was to say as most as you can in few words as possible with poetry and lyrics and stuff. So when you got these people being like, I got up the other day, drove down the street, went to her house, and she said, no, 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 no. And I was like, okay, it's a great story. I'm sure that you want to relive that song for the rest of your life. Over and over and over. Good job.
But it's not what kind of inspires you personally. You find more inspiration in abstraction, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. It's got to have room for interpretation because, you know, everybody's different. Everybody thinks different. And when you just, like, lay your stupid idea on the table, you know, you're only looking for someone who's going to have the exact same ideas as you. If you want anybody has diverse thoughts, you're going to have to leave some room for their own takes on songs. That's why even when people pen me and they're like, what's this about? Even then I'm kind of cagey because, like, I've got what I think it's about, but if I pin it down to my takes on it, then it takes the fun out of other people, I'd say.
Kind of like you like people taking their own interpretations into it.
Well, yeah, because I'm going to have a lack of words, but every single person's life is composed of a million different things and feelings and takes on things, and everybody feels like humans are all so similar, but really, if you really sat down with almost anybody, you're going to find out that almost everybody's insane in some way or other.
Yeah, I was talking to another guest about this, you know, that, like, I think, not to get off topic here, but I think a lot of problems could be solved by talking to people a little bit more instead of, you know, base judgments, you know, by just looking at them or, you know, seeing, you know, just because they believe something or support somebody that they're automatically this kind of person or believe this way when, you know, that could be the opposite case.
Well, yeah, it just goes, it's like the song. It's you're deciding for them what they're all about, so it's easier for you. that's the only thing people really do. You know, they're just like, all of these are, they're always doing this, or any generalization. In my job that I work at, most of the time, people say that stuff. It's like, oh, you know, women, and I'm just like, no, humans, dude.
Yeah.
It's not a defining. It's like humans do things like this. It doesn't matter what they're sporting in their legs.
Yeah, man. Yeah, generalizations are wacky to me. But I mean, you know, I get that not everybody thinks that way, unfortunately. So, we digress there a little bit, I guess. So going back to this, when you guys are ready to record, where do you guys go to record this record?
Mechanical Hand or Your Fault?
Yeah, Mechanical Hand.
We went up to Seattle and recorded with Matt Bayless of many different other fames.
Yeah.
And that was a life-changing experience, just getting up there. And I kind of just abandoned the guys and lived in Seattle by myself while they were in the tracking every day. And I just wandered around and grew as a human and finish off the lyrics for the songs. I remember writing Black Hole, the hotel room, the day that they were tracking it down, and sitting there watching it was like reruns of Angel and Buffy the Vampire Slayer on whatever free channels, and trying to come up with a cohesive theme to tie the whole entire album together. I believe we also Revenge of the Sith opening night theaters, and I saved everybody's seat, and they're all mad at me because it was that good. I liked it though.
Yeah, hey, I'm on your side with that one. I actually do enjoy that one.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff.
Are you watching The Mandalorian right now?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, man. I didn't really like the sequels too much myself, but I think The Mandalorian's kind of saving my love for Star Wars a little bit.
All the sequels need is a Clone Wars quality show to fill out their ridiculously vague story. If they get enough better media that just kind of fills in why this is it and that's that, then all of a sudden it'll seem like genius.
Yeah. I watched the Clone Wars cartoon myself, and when it filled in those holes, I was like, oh man, it kind of makes these movies way better.
Yeah, it does, because it takes their simple ideas that they only give 2 inches of like breathing room, and they actually give them legs and stilts to take these fantastic concepts and let them run. I'm still not saying it's like a masterpiece or anything, but I grew up on pop movies and sci-fi, and I eat that shit and I fucking love it.
Yeah. I mean, I would be hard pressed to not believe that some of that doesn't, seep into the music as well.
Oh, absolutely right. I swear to God, Mechanical Hands probably just a reference to Luke and Anakin, and I just don't realize it.
That would be hilarious if that was the case originally.
It's all just a giant Star Wars concept album. What do you knew it? Not even me.
So when you guys were up there in Seattle, you said you were still kind of writing stuff as they were tracking. How did you guys, I guess technology, was it still digital or were you guys doing analog? Was it like the early days of digital back then, or was it a mix, I guess?
Pretty sure it was all digital.
Okay.
I don't really remember.
So
I don't
when you
remember
guys
doing any reel-to-reels.
Okay, yeah. So were you guys recording, was it everybody kind of did their own part, like you had guitars one day, bass one day, and then you and, however you did it, was that kind of how it was split up, or was it a little bit more everybody
as
all
far as
there
I
at once?
remember, we spent 75% of the time tracking the drums because the drummer couldn't play the songs. We'd just have to like play one song all day long over and over and over until they got him doing it right. And then we just laid down all the other instruments really fast and did the vocals, and it was over.
Yeah, because I mean, what was your budget like back then? Because I'm sure, I
think it was a 15,000.
15, yeah.
That's the nut. I usually wouldn't even know that on the app, but that pops in my head immediately, so I think that's true. Maybe at that point. Oh, hi. Well, thank you. My daughter just brought me a Star Wars action figure.
Oh man, great timing.
Thank you. Wow,
That's awesome.
That's a really nice thing for her to do.
She knew, man. She used the Force. She heard us talking about Star Wars.
I named her on Team's birthday.
Sorry, you broke up there. What'd you say?
Her name is Aurora Rogue, and for her first birthday, it was a Rogue One themed birthday.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Yeah, I know we're digressing here. It's fun. I love this, actually. This is what I try to do with the podcast. But man, Rogue One probably is my favorite Star Wars movie besides like
Same here.
But man, that fucking end scene with Vader.
Not even that, just them dying makes it so much better.
yeah, because they're never.
No,
I mean,
like that too.
Yeah, it's so bleak and hopeless that you're like, where can it go? Oh, A New Hope. Like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I never would have seen that coming in a million years that they would have pulled that off. So good.
A guy at all?
A what?
A comic book guy at all?
Man, let me tell you, I am literally covered in comic book tattoos. I have
any of the Darth Vader series out now.
I've read some of it. Oh, none of the new stuff, like kind of the older, like a few years back series, kind of like where he's in between the Clone Wars, or I mean not Clone Wars, between 3 and 4. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I'm not super caught up, but I'm on the phone right now, baby. I can't come in right now. I'm talking to this nice guy on the phone. Okay, thank you.
That's cute, man.
She likes me. No, I was just gonna say that those comics were like the end of Rogue One, issue after issue after. It just this more of a person. I don't know what to say. Darth Vader used to just be a suit and a voice, and he was just quote unquote bad. But you like know the content of him, and they've never, only except for in Rogue One, shown him with the like what you know about him now as a motivated, like passionate person or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Some depth of character, I guess you could say. So it's the only time you ever see him move is in Rogue One. That's exciting, but they should just make a Disney Plus Darth Vader TV show where every week he's just fucking miserable.
Yeah, I heard they're doing a Obi-Wan one where Ewan McGregor's coming back, and I guess it's between 3 and 4. That should be interesting if it's anything like Mandalorian. I'd be curious to see what they pull off there.
I'm in. They can give depth of character, have tie all sorts of loose threads together.
Yeah.
I still have to think that never mind. We can't just talk about Star Wars. What am I doing?
Hey, it's fine, man. I didn't. So we're getting back to the Mechanical Hand. So you guys recorded it on $15,000. You did it pretty quick. You said like what, 5 days, or was I?
No, that was pizza.
Pizza. Yeah, that's what you said.
4 weeks, 4 or 5
4
weeks.
Okay. Something. Yeah, it's pretty solid for that amount of time. I mean, this is kind of a dumb cliche kind of thing to ask, but like when you guys were in there, working on this stuff, like, did you guys kind of know or have any sense of like, hey, we're kind of doing something different here, that a lot of other people aren't doing, and try to like hone that in a little more with this record?
Dave and Eric had a penchant when practicing songs. After the song ended, they would both just erupt into laughter and proclaim that they were geniuses. It would literally be a thing that always happened at horse practices with new songs. We'd play a new song and then we'd be laughing about the song in it because it was so good and so intense. But that, we didn't man, this is really going to do great out there kind of thing. It was more like, it just ended. Like, oh, that was great. That was more of the Horse to Band experiences, us just impressing ourselves with ourselves and then being satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way you got to be, because if you're sitting there spending time like worrying about, your peers or fans or whatever, then I think a lot, well, not a lot, but some, gets lost as far as like the end product sometimes. It just depends on the band, I guess. But yeah, it's always good to like worry about what you guys want more than anything. And I mean, you guys are having fun with it. That's, that was the other thing I was like really enjoyed about the band, is like, you guys were like serious but not serious at the same time, if that makes sense. It's like you could have fun with the heavy metal aspect of it, and I think a lot of bands were too worried about being super serious around that time.
Well, we were more just trying to make art, and if you're trying to make art and you're like, all right, I can only deal with like rage, it's just like you're really just ruining your art. You're just going to be some angry band that 4 years down the road is got a song that's semi-happy or funny, and you're like, you can do this. Absolutely not. We've already put a tombstone on our freaking sound and our emotional range. I can only write about werewolves getting AIDS or whatever it is that hip heavy bands write about.
Or in your case, Luke Skywalker's robotic arm or hand. I mean,
I think I've referenced it more than seen about it.
No, I know. Sarcasm.
Spin Magazine shot us in the back years ago and said that Mechanical Hand was a whole album about the Power Glove. And we were like, fuck you! And then they never would talk to us again. No, it wasn't Spin.
Wow.
What was that stupid hipster magazine that kids like? I don't remember. It was something meaningless.
Probably out of print now. I'd be hard-pressed to know anything that is like outside of Revolver still in print, music-wise.
Yeah, it was something that people cared about at the time. And now nobody cares, and I don't care either, obviously. So,
yeah, do you think you guys did get pigeonholed a little bit with the kind of like video game nerd aspect of the music where people thought you were only this one thing?
No. It was what you were saying before, is it was a scene that just couldn't handle a smile. Like, it literally just, to be so ridiculously, let's just face it, so comically dark in all the things you do, you've got to, like, take yourself seriously all the time, even when you probably shouldn't. And there's no room for humor, because the second you stop to, like, maybe not take yourself too seriously, it's fucking over, and you realize you've wasted your fucking life pretending you're some kind of, like, super tough prophet of, like, the future of neighborhood social dynamics. Like, I don't know, like, it's the dumbest thing you can do. And, like, people go into politics, and it's like, it's fucking great, dude. Why don't you become a politician instead of joining a band? You're here for entertainment. Shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah,
it's just, you just create this platform for yourself where you can only be this, like, cartoon character that you've created, and you're just, like, got to go out there and keep selling that one little idea. And then you got us who are just kind of all over the place, humanity, expressing art of all sorts of different notions, feelings, and rages through humor and seriousness and all that. And people are just like, this is weird. This is too much for me. I don't know. I've heard some weird stuff about this. That was generally, like, the reaction. Yeah. Then years later, we started getting these rumors. It's like, we heard that you hate gay people. And I'd be like, who the fuck starts these rumors?
What the fuck?
One guy asked us the other day, I did an interview the other day, and they're like, I heard a rumor that you pissed on a bunch of straight edge kids. And I was like, no, like, we never hated on anybody other than hateful, stupid people. But it's just like, somehow, like, they don't like you to have ways of, like, twisting what they see and hear to being things that they could be like, oh yeah, they do these likable things too. You're like, I don't know. It's just the this of social telephone games and, like, gossip dynamics. But I hate people, so I'm not good at any of that.
Yeah, misanthropy runs deep, especially nowadays. I feel like it's hard. It's hard. It's hard even for me, man. Like, just being back in, like, service industry world, I fucking hate people so much every day. But then I go home and I'm like, it doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about it in my own home.
Yeah, it's the conflicting human agendas spilling out of their guts, rather than just, like, keeping it together and we're all just playing the same game and being like, all right, cool, see you later. Everybody just wants to be up everybody's ass, and then once they do that, then it's like, wait a minute, you do it like this, I do it like this.
So I guess, another thing, or I guess maybe one final thing, and at least about this record, it's been 15 years now. How does it kind of reflect on for you to look at this record? Like, is it just something you did in your life? Is it something that you're, obviously I'm sure you're proud of it, but, like, how do you look at it, 15 years later, removed from it?
It's a wonderful, beautiful thing that only exists in some alternate dimensions. And I often exist in a dimension where it doesn't matter at all, but not by my own choice. But it's always nice when I can cross over into these alternate worlds and encounter people who are like, that is fucking amazing. I love that. And I can go, thanks, that's great. It sounds really vague, but I'll just refer to, like, the value of anything.
And I mean, hey, at the end of the day, this record and all your music will outlive you anyways. So, I mean, you have that going for you at least.
Yeah, it's probably one of the more pivotal things I've done in my life. Led to me getting inevitably married to somebody who liked listening to it, and I got my first tattoo based off some of the art off of it. So, things change you, whether you think about them or acknowledge them or not.
I like that. That's a good way to kind of encapsulate that record. So I guess moving on to now, I mean, obviously over the years you guys did way more shit. You did that incredible 10-hour documentary where you toured the entire earth, and then you put out your last record in 2009, and then kind of on and off doing shows, and then last year you guys were going to play some shows and you had some new songs, and COVID fucked everything up this year, and now we have an EP, right?
Yeah. Essentially, we all just went off and solidified our marriages, even jobs and stuff, instead of just like living like a pirate in a van, half drunk all the time. But we were all playing shows whenever good opportunity, but there was no writing going on, and Dave finally had enough of it, and he wrote some songs, dragged everybody into the studio one by one. He was tired of everybody else was, having kids and family and stuff. Kind of we're all lagging, not creating anything. And we had a couple pieces and parts we'd made over the years that never went anywhere. And he actually decided to sit down and orchestrate the two new songs. And then he called Daniel in, the drummer, and Jeremiah on bass, and they just hammered those songs out like to a degree that has never been done before with Horse the Band, because usually it's such a rocket in the sky kind of process. And then when they were presented to me, they were just so crisp and so heavy, and it was I got to write lyrics for the first time to like the most cohesive thing. But the weird twist this time was the keyboards came at the same time. So while I was writing lyrics, he was writing the keyboards, which usually I have all the keys there, and that's like one of my major cues. Mm-hmm. So I would say that this album has a very like guitar, bass, drums, heavy, centric value to it, while all the traditional elements are still there. You can see, since the like architecture is like very rooted in this in a pretty extreme way.
So when you typically do like your vocal patterns and stuff, you usually have done it to the keyboards instead of the guitars and everything else?
Not necessarily to the keyboards, but I'd have the song as a whole. And the things that I personally cue on as far as like how I'm feeling or what I'm going off to is often just the snare drum and then the keys. Mm-hmm. I don't really take into context all what's going on in the bass and all the guitar work and stuff, even though it's awesome. It's so busy and there's a lot of things happening. It's usually I have to find my simple core. But this time, sans keys is a different element, very like a traditional rock feeling without the keyboard there.
Interesting. So I assume, with like over the years, like you guys obviously, like you said, you all have families and have kind of moved on and stuff. But I mean, at the heart of it, like you guys spent a lot of time doing this band. I mean, is this something that maybe not necessarily touring, but writing music is something you guys are looking to do again?
The idea is to start doing just EPs, just start making EPs and EPs and EPs. Dave wants to drive that, and I know Eric's been re-inspired recently. I even saw some footage of him playing and trying to expand his art at home. So
nice.
There's a lot of growth going on in all the different categories, and we're not strangers by any means. We're the kind of people who are more like just family who aren't necessarily seeing each other every day.
Yeah.
So it'd be very easy to continue the creative process.
Yeah, I think EPs are the way to go now, myself. I've noticed this trend sort of within the past couple of years. A band will put out a full length, and just to kind of keep, everything fresh in their fans or listeners' minds, they'll put out like an EP or two in between that time, because people nowadays tend to kind of move on to stuff like pretty quickly. There's no like
Agreed.
sinking in time for records anymore, but that seems to be the trend. I like it, even if it's just 2 or 3 songs, it's still, 2 or 3 more songs that we didn't have like a few months ago. So I think that's a great idea that you guys are wanting to.
And it can happen faster that way,
Yeah.
Which is what the audience is going to start wanting. People watching TV shows over movies, because movies can't happen fast enough anymore. So people just want these bingy series, and people like this comic book effect on things. And I think of bands, I wouldn't be surprised if a couple years down the line, if it got to the point where all bands really did was drop a song every couple months. Like everybody, here's our new song. We're gonna play some more shows. This is the new song we're pushing really hard right now. And like the idea of albums, I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of became more like collections of the last couple of years of songs, or something to that effect.
Yeah, and it would have to think
Depends
too,
on how touring goes.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go with that, man. It's like, it's a kind of a weird time for like bands touring. I honestly don't see anybody touring within the next year. I mean, they've already canceled some tours. It's unfortunate, man, but it'll be interesting to see what bands adapt and what bands don't, and how they adapt, I think.
It's even kind of politically charged that if you play a show, people are like, fuck them for playing that show. Who are you trying to like? Right or wrong, it's anything. It's not a place where you can be an entertainer by any means.
Yeah.
But I think you're right though, that evolution. If you're a band, or like you're in a position where you guys can just keep putting music, putting it on the internet, and I don't know, selling some shit, like just engaging people and being active in people's minds, that's the stage right there. You want to get to the stage in their minds.
Yeah, I
reality.
Mean, I think the live stream stuff is a step in the right direction. While it's not the same, it doesn't feel like you're at a show really, but it's still nice to kind of get that experience of seeing a band play music. So I think that's been a cool little thing that bands have done over this time.
I haven't seen any. I'm wondering how much production is going to go into those things. It's like, yeah, is it going to be like the Saturday Night Live performance where they're just like playing the album with a weird mix on it? They're just hand syncing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, are they going to allow themselves to be raw on just a freaking video on the internet? That's what a lot of people back to. I think too, aside from just being talented and hitting all your notes, is that experience of people's passions aflame.
Yeah, I've only watched like one live stream of a band, and like they just kind of played in their practice space and, through like a mixer and all that stuff. And it sounded fine. But on the other hand, I've watched like some musicians that are Twitch streamers, and you can tell that they're just having the backing track, play in the background, and they're just kind of like fingering the guitar stuff. I'm like, well, you're kind of playing the song, but you're not really playing the song. And it's kind of a weird disconnect there.
I would love to somehow do a live show for Horse the Band for fans, but like get our friend Gary down to film it. But somehow just connect just raw chaos. Like how do you get the chaos home? How do you get it? Like how do things go off the rails when you're just sitting there at a computer? Like you can't really engage on that level other than a little bit of movie magic.
Yeah, that's the big disconnect.
You're just screaming at a camera.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm just like, well, this is why it doesn't feel like a real show. I mean, I understand bands have to make money, but it's just like, I don't know. It just feels different. And I don't even go to a lot of shows in the first place. That's where I'm at in my life. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how things unfold over the next year. It would be nice to see bands getting back out there, but I don't know just realistically how that will be.
I don't definitely be some paradigm changes. I'm ready to take step with them and see what we can do, because I'm not a huge fan of touring, so I would like to be some active engagement from the position that I have. Like I do like, but there's so many burdens that go along with it. So many joys. The highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
Yeah, man. It's just cool that you guys are doing stuff again, even after all this time. And I think that's one of those things with music that, if you don't force it, you kind of get a better product in the end, if it just comes naturally. Not that you guys have ever forced it, but, like taking the hiatus or whatever. I think it's cool that you guys are finally like starting to do stuff again.
I think it's going to be a continuous process now that we've kind of figured out our process for doing it this way. That is.
Yeah. One, I guess, final thing I kind of want to touch on here before I let you go, you guys are doing everything yourself, I assume, like releasing and all that. You guys aren't on a label. So how have you guys navigated that, and what's the plans kind of going forward with trying to get everything out there to everybody?
I'd say that I really was the marketing arm of it, but I feel like that was the sort of thing that I was back and down our ass the most later, because there's always these loopholes in contracts and stuff where your earnings are paying for all your things in advance, and I just never seem to make enough to pay back the things that were like it. It just becomes this monster, like the Ouroboros eating its own tail. So if we could really release things independently, freely, like this is on our own life records that we've had. I'm not sure what the entanglements we've made for digital release are, so I can't speak to that so much. But I think it allows you choices later on. Like if we choose to do our vinyls, we can do our first record, and we could probably do Desperate Living, but all the ones that were signed up through like Koch and stuff, we can't do anything with, because that beast, it's like, so
just
that freedom later on, like later on we can do whatever we want with Your Fault. If we make a couple EPs, we can all stick them all together and be like, it's your fucking fault, you asshole. The fulling,
Yeah, it definitely seems like bands have a little more freedom with that kind of stuff as far as like independent releases, but it's, it's a whole nother world to navigate as far as like, you guys are putting your own money in all this, I assume, there's no outside help.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a lot harder, I assume.
But that's what I'm saying though, is that help is an illusion, because that help it's going to come out of any of your sweat and blood later. It's just going to be vacuumed right off your face and fed back into that vacuum that came from in the first place. Like I can't. You'd have to get Eric and Dave here to tell you all about all the freaking ridiculous cycles of problems we've had with that. From simple things like we broke down and they sent us some money to help us fix our engine. Mm-hmm. That came into cyclic problem for freaking years of that money coming out of this, but then being paid back into that and coming around here. And I feel like just as a multi-$1,000 vortex that somehow just benefited them over and over and over.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would I want to do that again?
Yeah, I spent some time touring with a band, and the first tour that I did with them, it was the same thing, man, where like they were on a quote-unquote big label and their transmission went out and they sent them money, but then it was like, so how are you going to pay that back? How are you going to pay that back? And it's like, you're just never going to get royalties or merch cuts or whatever, and it was just like bending them over backwards for fucking nothing. It's like, man.
And that's how it works.
Yeah.
That's literally that's how the system works. It's a machine of its own device designed to prey on the artists.
Yeah.
So hopefully that creature gets sick and dies. Hopefully that creature gets the COVID.
I mean, it's a weird thing I'm seeing around, and it's not a lot of people, but I see it every now and then where people call out record labels for kind of predatory practices. I guess I'll go and say Earache's a big one that I see get called out a lot for their practices of how they treat bands. I mean, are they ever going to do anything about it? No, probably not. But it's at least good to see people put like a little bit of a microscope on that, more so than we've had in the past.
It'll happen more and more in the future, I imagine.
And Victory Records.
Labels.
Fuck Victory Records.
The ones that, I don't know anything about any of them because I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's all about the burning of the bridges, and especially with the internet communities and stuff now, people will just start being leery. They can't get to a point where you're just perpetually high school kids, because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's not going to forever make you money, just haircuts and fashions. So hopefully the creature will get weak and some other horrible thing will take its place.
Well, shit, man. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I already appreciate everything you've talked to me about. So the EP comes out in 2 days, right? 27th, or is it 29th?
27th.
27th. Okay, Friday. Yeah. So where can people find it? People that are listening, even though this is going to come out a couple days after it releases.
I actually have no idea.
Okay. Well, hey, I'm going to talk to David later today, and I'll ask him.
I'll just go to the Facebook or the Instagram of the band, and we'll have definite links up there, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, it's
the reason I don't know.
What's that?
My fault. My fault. I don't know.
Oh, it's all good, man. I figure, because at the very least, this is all going to be through you guys. So the more support, the better. Getting that money, and I'm sure people are excited anyways that you guys are just putting out new stuff. So it'll be cool to see the reception to it once it's out.
I expect it to be a fantastically polarized reaction.
Hey, that's good. That's good. I mean, you got to have something to get people to talk about these days. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. But regardless, man, seriously, thank you so much for doing the podcast and giving me a little bit of insight to the Mechanical Hand and also the new EP. It was awesome to get to talk to you, man.
No worries. I'm glad you listened to my nonsense.
Hey, it was good to get to talk to somebody about Star Wars too, a little bit.
Ooh, it's a passion.
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes!